Hello, and welcome to another Facts and Dimensions Spotlight dataset. In this series, we pick on a particular dataset that we provide and talk about it in some detail. So I'm going to start with CQC and the schema CQC and the schema CQC providers. The CQC schema has locations, and the CQC providers want providers, of course. All that data comes from this website here, cqc.org.uk. If you go to that website, scroll all the way to the bottom, click on CQC data, that will take you to the API section, and click on Get Started Now on our API portal, and that will take you to the API portal, which explains in a lot of detail how their API works. Essentially, it's all of the data about all of the healthcare related locations and providers that own those locations in the country. So let's start with the locations first. So if I click on locations examples and scroll down here, they've got an example right here. If I just copy that over to here in another window, in Firefox preferably, because then you get the nice formatting, run that, you have the information about this location. So this particular one, it's Morden Hall Medical Centre, and it's got all sorts of useful information about it. There's the location ID here, so that's the ID that uniquely identifies this location. The provider ID, that's the provider that owns that location, and I'll be going on to the CQC providers in a little bit in the video. I won't go through every field because obviously there's too many, but really useful ones. You've got the ODS code, which is the ODS NHS Digital ODS equivalent code for the CQC code. That's very handy. You've got the UPRN code, so you could use that with the National Stats UPRN lookup SCD table in Facts and Dimensions to get a load of information about that particular UPRN. Other things that are useful in here, the exact location of it, whether or not it's a care home. Now, that might seem not particularly useful, but when I used to work in the NHS, whenever we needed to know whether a location was a care home or not, the only way we could work it out was based on the postcode often. But with this new field that they added a couple of years ago, it's a straightforward flag, yes or no, is it a care home? Very, very handy. Lots of other bits and pieces. When it was last inspected, regulated activity, so in this case, just these two here. What else we got? Inspection categories, inspection areas, because the CQC, as you know, Care Quality Commission, their job is to go around to healthcare organisations and write up reports on how well or not they are doing in various areas. Their ratings, service ratings, loads of information here, right? So that information being on this screen needs to be put into a database to then be able to make any immediate direct use of it. There are tools for querying APIs directly, which are obviously brilliant, but for our purposes, we wanted it in SQL. So I've now connected to my own Azure DB, and those tables are in the CQC providers. Sorry, the CQC schema. So first of all, I need to actually add that schema to my database, which I will do now. There's a different video that shows you how to add tables, but it's pretty obvious when you watch how I do it here. So that will have added those tables in. Here they are, CQC, excellent. As you know from one of the other videos, if you go to release details schema, this particular one, all available tables, that will help you see where data comes from. Anyway, sticking with the purpose of this video, I'm going to have a look at this CQC item we pulled up for Morden Hall Medical Centre. So start with the main table, locations SCD. All these link tables here, they're used to join to this one. There's only a few situations in Facts and Dimensions where tables are interrelated. CQC locations, CQC providers, Met Office, and ODS API, and there will no doubt be more in the future, but the vast majority of tables are standalone. These ones are combined. So let's have a look. Let's bring up that location. So that location has now come up, and it's come up 17 times. And as explained in the video about system fields, basically it's a slowly changing dimension, and you've got these from and to dates that show you how the code has changed over time. So to get the current definition, you just do where is effective 2 is null, or you could say is latest equals 1, which is exactly the same. I'll do that now. I do that so often. So that's the current values. We can just to show you them matching. There's a provider ID 15456 and so on. 15456, and then the provider code 199747 and so on. 199747. It's all these fields here are these fields here. Okay, so like number of beds. Oh, I forgot to mention that earlier. Number of beds, very, very useful indeed. I don't know if that's fully filled in, but I think CQC are working their way through all the locations and populating that field. But of course, when that's finished, absolutely brilliant. So that's all that. Now, all this other data down here, you see how this is in JSON format. And JSON format enables for tables within tables and relationships within relationships and all kinds of stuff like that, which is fantastic. But to be able to make use of it in SQL, they all have to be pulled into their own tables. So let's say these current ratings here, right? I'll just add on the ratings table. Here it is. On a.location ID equals b.location ID, and a.api call date equals b.api call date. I should point out that this CQC one is the first data set derived from an API that we did. A little bit naive back then. We have since then API derived data sets made a separate table called a register table, which has an ID that reflects the call to the API, and everything's linked together on that register ID. Obviously, with all our current customers relying on the data being designed the way we have designed it, and there's no benefit in updating this. We've kept it like this. So anyway, that's how you join with the CQC stuff. I'll just add in a dot here as well. Now, if I just replace these fields, so we're just getting the data from the B table being current ratings. So we've got those ratings, all good, apparently. As you can see them here, safe, good, well-led, good, caring, good, safe, good, well-led, good, caring, good. And that's it, really. Also, if I just bring back the overall rating, because you'll notice there was an overall rating. This was one level up, so we put that at the top table. So there you got the overall rating as well. There's all the other tables here. The inspection areas, historic ratings, so that means you can get the ratings that were in the past. Let's bring that up over now, actually. So there's only one historic rating, but there you go. That's that. Only if some bits were rated. So hopefully that gives you an idea how to actually link the locations tables. CQC.locations SCD is your parent table, and you use these other ones and always joining them on location ID field and API call date field to get all the other information about that location. So that's CQC locations. Providers, which we've done more recently and better, so we've got the register table, is in the CQC providers tables. To get them added to your database, you just run this procedure again and put leave this one as blank, and in schema name put CQC_providers. So here's the providers ones. So if I just start with the parent table here, providers, let's look up the parent of this location. So the provider is that, where provider ID equals this, and is latest equals 1, so we're only getting the current values. You can ignore this. This is just used by our system as a way of deriving the SCD. We excluded in locations, but didn't here, and that's harmless there anyway. So again, you've got all those fields. Now, if I just return that from the CQC app itself, going into providers examples, let's do that. So we're doing this provider here. So you can see there's the provider ID, only one location, but some providers have lots of locations and various information, regulated activities and whatnot. And again, you've got the parent table that's got all that data you're seeing in the top here: postal code, latitude, longitude, phone number, etc. That is in this main table, and then you would join on the other provider tables to get the other info. So let's say if I wanted the regulated activities, then inner join CQC providers regulated activities on, and in this one you just simply do on register ID equals register ID. If I just return what's in B only, just for simplicity's sake, there's the regulated activities, maternity and midwifery services. That's this one, and so on. So that's basically how you query the CQC providers. And as I said before, you've got, if we just return a dot star, if we want the locations dot locations, so b dot star, there's the locations, only one of them. And that's the code I pulled up here. And just to show, like, just for an example, RGQ, hospital near where we work, several locations. And then if I just brought up one of those locations here, if it's in there at all, there's locations and some information about those locations. In this case, the historic ratings for that location. You might notice that the location ID and provider ID is sometimes what looks like an ODS code rather than the more familiar location ID, CQC code, which is like a number, a dash, and then a load of numbers. I don't actually know why that is, but for one reason or another, I think with the hospitals and major organisations in the NHS, CQC have just decided to use the same codes that ODS use. So there you go. Right, well, that's the CQC's providers and locations demo. We'll be releasing many videos highlighting the many data sets that we have over the coming weeks and months, and forevermore, really, because we keep bringing new ones out. Thank you very much. Bye.